What is going on, guys, and welcome back to another video. So of course yesterday was the day we were all really anticipating because it was the first dev live stream since they have come off their holidays, and well, although we didn't get any information regarding Hawkeye's DLC, it seems like we got some other bits of info that is really good, including the MCU suit situation. Now I want you guys to let me know in the comments below, what MCU suit do you really want to see get added to the game. Let me know in the comments below, and thumbs up the ones that you think are really cool as well. And as always, drop a like on this video and let's dive into the information. So they basically cleared it up straight away when the dev livestream started that they will not be talking about Hawkeye's DLC, which is fair enough, but all the other information, like I said, that was dropped was very interesting to say the least. Now if you did tune into it, you'll know there were some really cool parts, but big shout out to the Play Avenger Twitter account and Miller as well, because what they do is essentially live tweeting where they basically pick out the key things that get mentioned. Now as I said about the MCU skins, we got some more info on that from Phil, except it's now I guess changed up a little bit, because when the question was asked, he said that it's now being strongly looked into, and I quote, strongly looked into, which is a good thing because we know the demand for this in the community is something that's very high, and ultimately it's just going to make the gameplay experience a whole lot more fun and will be a crazy thing if they completely eliminate it. But still, one thing to take into consideration is that they still have to go through the process of going through the whole licensing situation, etc. So unfortunately it's not as smooth as it seems it could be, but nonetheless at least it's now being strongly looked into because we know they want it in their game as well. Now regarding the new game plus, again this is something that I've seen a lot of people still be annoyed about because, well, it's been how many months and still we can't replay the campaign, etc. But it's now been stated that the new game plus mode is in QA at the moment, so that's great news. Now when it comes down to cloning labs, which is essentially all endgame stuff, this was asked to Phil, also about the roadmap as well. Now roadmap is actively being looked into, but he says, and I quote, that the endgame stuff like cloning lab and all of that is probably the next thing that's gonna be coming out. And then Crystal Dynamics were in the chat as well, and they did actually make a comment stating that they would love to give dates for all kind of things, but unfortunately both the dates and themselves are basically in a situation where they just can't basically come out and say, hey, you know, this is the message as to what's coming out, you know, in the near future for the game. So they can't do that, although they would love to. It's just not in their power to basically spread the message of new endgame content and dates of all kinds. They just simply cannot do that, which is basically what we've all been saying anyway for a long time, where we know it all comes down to the whole legal side of things, which does suck, but it's one of those situations that we just kind of have to swipe under the rug. Now again, with the campaign replay, essentially this would just be the new game plus, right? And campaign replay is very soon and close. Now this is where things get very interesting, because we know that some systems are actually going to be reworked on, right? And they're going to switch for the better. Now gear rework is one of those things. Now apparently it does include more features, more functionality, quality of life upgrades, and Phil has seen the changes and said that it will take a little while, however it will be worth the wait. Now again, how much this is going to change we don't exactly know, but I mean just that alone, it comes down to, you know, making the more obvious pick when it comes down to the right gear, etc that you really want, and essentially just more functionality. I know there was also a question, well, not specifically on the stream but just in general, where people were saying, you know, how cool would it be if we can have these specific set gear loadouts as well, where you can just toggle between each character, well not each character, the same character but a different purpose, i.e. melee or long range, etc, depending on who it is going to be. I think that would be cool. And another idea is that maybe there could be something where you can actually share your gears as well to other characters in the game. So essentially you can just drop loot to your buddies if they are low on like a level, right, and they're just missing some small key things that would basically get them there, or even things like DNA keys as well. I think that would be a very interesting feature. And again, it's going more down like the whole Destiny road as well, but hey, it's getting compared to that. I think it would be cool nonetheless, and it just makes sense. It's a no-brainer. Now, the last thing is regarding new takedowns and villains, because they are coming. Now, Phil states that you won't have to wait too long for new villains, and that's actually one of the things that's coming up pretty soon. Now, he also touched up on the next gen update as well, saying that it's coming and it's basically still planned for early, and then he basically just trailed off on that bit of information, either because he couldn't give a specific time frame or whatever, but we know that's still coming very early. So what did we learn? Well, we learned a whole bunch of stuff is still coming soon, but when you know things are in QA, for example like the new Game Plus, it still gets you really excited. Also at the fact that MCU skins, I know it's been such a big topic, especially when it comes down to this marketplace. I think if there were MCU skins, honestly, how many people wouldn't be so bothered about buying a skin, right? For 14 bucks, it's still a hell of a lot of money, but right now it's in a situation where you spend 14 bucks on something you don't even want anyway, and it's just still 14 bucks, which is crazy. But MCU skins, if they get added into the game at some point in this year as a whole, I think it will do them a big favor. But on the bright side, there was no sign of a plug being pulled for this game. They just seem very, I guess, anticipated for the future on what's to come soon. But it's nice to know that the next stuff that's going to be coming is going to be essentially, that big update that's going to have all the other things like the cloning labs and the endgame content as a whole. So that's what should be next up. And when they say next, I don't know if they're talking about rolling it out with Hawkeye's DLC, but it seems like that's going to be February, unfortunately, which is very sad. But again, it's one of those situations where we just have to take it as it comes. I could be wrong, you never know. At some point next week they could go ahead and drop a trailer for Hawkeye, but I just don't know what's holding them back. What I do know though is that when there's so many people involved in the game and so much legal stuff going on behind the scenes, it just makes communication terrible. And the lack of communication we're basically getting anyway is basically what's destroying the game. Honestly, it really is one of those situations, and the course of that is basically the legal side of things. But guys, leave your thoughts on all of this stuff in the comments below, and that's gonna wrap up this video here. So I'll see you guys in the next one. If you missed the previous video, go ahead and check that out, because that was an interesting one. And the one before that, well, we were talking about the big DLC. The DLC when it comes down to Spider-Man. This is something that we know is really anticipated, but it seems like a lot of people are now worried about this as well. So check that video out if you haven't already, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Till then, have yourselves a ridiculously amazing day, and until the next one, adios amigos.